this, we don't want to make sure they can't do this. We want them to have a limitless choice.
Performance of the platform is in line with how it looks.
And then before you know it, it's like, oh, you've got a hit on your hands. There's a sourcing method where people just go to China factory's already designed something, and then you put your name on it and you buy it. And you go to large model shows and you see this all the time. You see same cars, you know, one in France, one in Germany, one in USA, all the same vehicle from the same factory under different brands. We don't take that approach at all. That is not the ARRMA approach. The designed fast in the tagline of the brand is because we design every component from scratch. We have CAD engineers here that design cars based on what we feel is the requirement for the vehicle, and we go component up.
The design phase, we write a design brief, which is a kind of an overview of the product we'd like to create.
We just went with the angle of, well, let's make a restomod, you know, slammed street truck. People have an attachment to older cars. You know, you always have people who say, oh, things are better back in my day, and so on and so forth. So what we try to do is almost have a modern take on classic recipes, you could say. So we kind of narrowed it down to, we wanted to be able to take speed humps in the average parking lot. So we wanted the car to be able to jump a little and be tough, and starting with the off-road components is a great way of knowing that we're going to have a strong platform for that. So
we then hand it over to a designer or a couple of designers to then take that vision and make it in 3D to see if it is actually possible to make it like that. The vision that sometimes is on paper or in pictures doesn't, or sometimes cannot be made exactly how you want it to be. So the slight compromise in design is then made there. That's then reviewed to check it off against the design brief to see how closely it matches, to see if the product's viable, to see how much the tooling will be. And then that will go around maybe a loop or two of redesign in evolution to just really get it to a polished state where we know it's going to be a good product.
Things that are a bit more fluffy, things that require styling or a bit more product design kind of focus, then I work on those. So I worked on the sort of early designs for diffuser bumpers, sort of body mounts and things. That was all sent off, and yeah, then the team all jumped onto different parts and we polished it and brought it to conclusion, basically.
Getting style and function together, with it being a street platform, and we want it to be all road, so we needed to have a reasonable amount of ground clearance, the most suspension travel we can get, but we still wanted it to look really good sat still. So a lot of effort was put into the up travel, down travel, body clearance on steering and bump. So that was a big challenge, getting the dynamics of the chassis and the suspension to not impact the body design too much with the wheel arches, the over fenders.
You'll see that the chassis is quite different from what we've done with the off-road platforms. Yeah, there's a lot more complexity to the chassis, and also how the bumpers mount, making something that's ARRMA strong that is also an on-road car was difficult.
I think the chassis was the biggest challenge, to be honest, because it has a lot of features to it. So it's at the front, it's raised, then it goes down and it goes back up, and there's a lot of stamping involved and different shapes. You know, single biggest piece of the car, and it has, you know, so many new features for us that we've never, some things that we've never done before. It was always meant to be a single piece. But the original design was, for example, a flat chassis, and then we had razors, plastic razors for the gearboxes, so we would have a flat drive line, and then it's quite later in the project that we decided to actually make it a feature of the chassis itself. We had to make sure that the factory was able to make what we were designing exactly. So that was the most difficult thing to do.
The adjustability there is huge, and then you say we've added, looking around at other people's speedrun cars, we've added a lot of mounting holes which we think they'll find useful. So yeah, it's probably the rear diffuser and the front bumpers adjustability, I think, is two of my favourite pieces on the car.
Well, we knew already, I suppose, from the Outcast that sort of style of truck worked really well. So the idea was always to do an on-road variant of it. I mean, originally we just called it the on-road Outcast. To make something like an on-road which is inherently very fast, and I mean, with ARRMA we're all about designing fast, designing tough. So we had to, it's just very subtle details where, you know, you sort of, just to make it look more aggressive, more dynamic. We have something in the office where we call the fist test, which is basically, usually we apply it to trucks where it has to look like it's about to knock you out. So not, obviously we don't mean in the literal sense, but it's just that aggressive look, that purposeful presence, I guess.
The combination of strong chassis design with ARRMA design style bodies, I think it's a really good recipe right there. It's you know the chassis underneath is tough. It can take a lot of abuse, but at the same time the car looks fantastic. I think we've done a good job in combining the strong chassis with really sleek body designs.
ARRMA RC. Designed fast, designed tough.